Twitter is a rat hole, okay? If I didn't have a channel, I would never visit this septic tank of a website. Not to go into a tangent in the first 10 seconds of a video, but what the fuck happened to social media, man? Do you even remember the feeling of being excited to hop on Facebook.com after school to see the boring shit your friends were up to? Remember a time, and I shit you not, I'm not making this up, there was a time when not every single person on the planet was either a brainwashed conspiracy theorist or actively trying to ruin a stranger's life. Anyways, before it became about owning the other political side in an endless, gruelingly unproductive back and forth, serving only to sow deeper divide between our human race than any other instrument in history, Twitter was actually kind of a fun website. Being a fun website made it the definitive platform for bite-sized information, which means if you have bytes of information you want people to swallow, Twitter is where you need to be. So in order to follow the development of a cool farming indie game you found in 2023, you have to actively choose to make your life a tad bit worse in the process. But my life is rock bottom already, so I went and collected a bunch of indie games, and not just any indie game the algorithm shat out on my timeline. You come here for curated, aesthetic, good shit. By the way, it's so easy to get recommended upcoming games, but trying to find cool indies that are already out, nigh impossible. Indie devs, listen to me. You guys are too pure for the capitalist hellhole you're trying to navigate. Cool screenshots, videos, and GIFs demonstrating interesting areas or mechanics go kind of viral and get you some attention. So what do you do the second the game launches? Stop posting all of that bullshit. It's time to get into the good stuff. Patches, discounts, and retweets, baby. Little advice from the consumer perspective. You gotta have gay dudes kissing in your profile pic if you want my attention, man. Don't let the robot overlords stop showing me your shit because I'm not interacting with it. Anyways, I took only the games that made my ooh, pretty pixels, ooh, ah sensors go off and shoved them all into this video. Actually, not all. I have so many that if I cover them all now with the speed at which I create content, you'd be watching this in 2025. So we're doing this in 2 parts for now, but definitely more later. I tried to divide them equally so each video has some bangers as well as some smaller, just fun projects. Name and Twitter handle for every game will be in the top left. I just want to say also, if you want to hear me talk about this stuff like this social media thing, I've been having a lot of fun streaming on Twitch occasionally. I really want to get more into it, so please go follow me there. It's at ChromeRot. We have a nice fun little family therapy time just chilling and talking to each other. Let's get into it. Hey listen, if you've been around for a while, you know Mirror's Edge is my favorite game, basically because it's sunny. There's a lot of sun in it, and that instinctively tickles a billion-year-old part of my ape brain. Or basically because different colored pixels on my screen trick my billion-year-old stupid fucking ape brain into thinking it's sunny. I cannot overstate the primal stimulation I get from bright blue skies and shiny green grass, which is why we're starting with Brass Below. Most of the games on this list I compiled based purely on looks because I'm just fucking shallow like that and don't really know how much info there is about them until I start writing, but you don't really even need a lot of info to figure out what kind of game this is. Are you getting open world, part handcrafted, part procedural generation, dungeon diving life simulation game from these GIFs and videos? Because that's the official description. Honestly, dungeon diving is the only part of that I'm not too excited about. Whenever I see a game like this, my first thoughts are, don't make it all about crafting and don't ruin it with caves. But I realize that is just me and people generally enjoy these things. In a reply under this video, the dev said that the world will have content, meaning lots and lots of interactive things. This is just basic island layout, which is exciting. I like being just given stuff to interact with in a chill world like this, rather than having to use my brain to create something. Video about that coming at some point, by the way. The game will have, quote, lots of fun mechanics, as well as supposedly deep, fragmented lore to explain how the game world works. There is turn-based combat in the game, but it seems to be sort of atypical, so it's kind of hard to understand through text, but I'm really excited to see what it plays like. And of course, Boat. Boat is a big part of game. You maintain and operate it yourself, and as far as I understand, it kind of serves as your base station while you explore the world. The word cyberpunk has become synonymous with neon lights, this fucking haircut, and botched video game launches, but REPOSE captures a whole other side of this genre, a much filthier, grittier one. I remember seeing a lot more sort of dark cyberpunk before the game took over the keyword, and it is really its own separate thing. And I can't imagine any other genre being a better fit for this retro 1-bit aesthetic.
Explore, fight, and maintain a healthy sleep schedule as you descend the twisted levels of the corporation that hired you for unknown reasons.
I'm fascinated by how this description alone is so good at instantly setting a mood. There's not much we know about the game other than you were tasked with looting oxygen tanks off dead astronauts, but the dev is trying to keep pretty much everything else under wraps. REPOSE has a unique saving system where you don't get a save button, but are instead given a code every time you sleep that you need to enter next time so the game knows where you left off. This looks like a short, experimental type game because we unfortunately don't live in a world where you could ever get an investor to pump more than $2 into a project like this, but it looked unique enough for me to mention it, and the dev is a fantastic traditional artist, so I'm really curious how the final game ends up looking. When I found Fortune's Run, it looked like just another boomer shooter, but weirder. I like boomer shooters, especially ones that try to add their own little twist to it, and the weirder the better as far as I'm concerned, so it immediately went on the list. Then I downloaded the demo and spent like 5 minutes straight shooting hoops.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Now I think this is Game of the Year material. Now you might think I'm exaggerating, and you're right, I am. But this game had me in its grip since the first fucking second of booting it up. You want to talk about the gritty kind of cyberpunk? This is it. If this game doesn't sell in September, that's it, boys. Pack it up. It's over. I know my job is kind of to describe video games, but I would just urge you to try out the free demo if you like anything resembling Doom. Fortune's Run is bizarre, beautiful, runs incredibly, is ridiculously hard with a huge skill ceiling, has great voice acting, and an atmosphere so thick you can only cut it with a bullet deflecting katana. For comparison, I played Cultic recently. That game was a big hit, but personally to me it felt a lot more closer to the formula, and that's something I would have enough thoughts on to make a video about. Unlike the fucking insanity that is Fortune's Run. This shit will have you going, huh? Every 10 seconds, particularly at the immersive sim elements where it kind of reminds me of Cruelty Squad at times. And yeah, this is an immersive sim / over-the-top action type of game, so there's multiple ways to approach every encounter if you learn how to exploit the deep mechanics. Every millimeter of this game oozes style, from the menu to the saving to even the damn website. I fully co-sign this one. Keep an eye on it when it comes out. It's survival horror time, kids. Yay! I've got a whopping 4 games where the developers probably say Silent Hill more often than the name of their own game, but I'll split them to include 2 in each video. Starting with Hollowbody. You're a black market shipper who gets stranded in an abandoned British city. This one's the most strikingly similar to Silent Hill, and I have a video on Silent Hill 2, by the way, that I made while having a mental breakdown and literally no one watched it. Just do not miss the chance to plug something. It doesn't really have its own distinct style. It looks like a remake of Silent Hill 2, which is great. I mean, it's cool. Definitely the most AA looking of the 4. For some reason, it pisses me off when YouTubers say something is a love letter to something, but Hollowbody is as love lettery to Silent Hilly as it gets. You know how James stomps on downed monsters like an absolute pussy? Hidden leg blades. No, I don't know if you caught that. Retractable fucking leg blades, motherfucker. Need I say more? Oh, okay. Ground Zero is a lot more stylized, and I mean, the more present I experience, the bigger fan of past I become. Despite the explosion of these PS1 style graphics, they make me swoon over and over again every time. It's basically free points when a game looks like the sweet memories of a time long gone. Ground Zero hits all the nostalgia checkboxes with pre-rendered backgrounds and fixed camera angles, but it also looks like a lot more than just cheap nostalgia bait. The sound design, especially the meatiness of these gunshots, has absolutely no business being this good in a game with 1,000 followers. The atmosphere is what carries these types of games, and I can't say what the vibes are like before I play it, but it did immediately stand out on first glance, which is always a good thing. For one, it's set in a post-apocalyptic South Korea, which is a rare setting with a lot of potential. I always prefer outdoor areas to decrepit hallways, and this game seems to have a lot of outdoor action, but some of the inside areas we've seen also look quite atmospheric. The color palette is kind of unique too. It has this washed out green and orange tint, and let's not forget hidden leg blades. Yo, for years, way back when, I complained about there not being enough games set in feudal Japan with like samurai and ninjas and shit. This was always such a popular setting. There have been ninja games ever since there have been games, but for some reason, never a full-fledged, sick AAA experience or even a good indie utilizing the immense potential of that era of Japanese history. It's always either some fucking pimped out ninja with glowing eyes and a bright red jumpsuit wiping out 500 guys in one swing, or it's some lackluster, mechanically weak game with a coat of Japanese paint slapped on top. I remember people begging Ubisoft for an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan only to get ignored over and over again. We've yet to see a game actually put you in the shoes of a ninja, a name basically synonymous to the word stealth, or even something like a lone traveling swordsman from Vagabond, where you would explore Edo-era villages and cities instead of more medieval, more, I haven't had enough taverns, bro! After years of waiting for something to hit the right spots, we got Sekiro, and I was satisfied. I'm over it now. I don't care about Nioh, I don't care about Ghost of Tsushima. Two things happened. Sekiro became one of my favorite games of all time, and the trailer for Black Myth Wukong dropped. I had my fix, and then I saw new shiny thing coming from China. I realized China has so much cool shit to offer that I haven't been fixated on for a good chunk of my life and therefore kind of burnt out on. Wandering Sword is a wuxia RPG. How many of these do we have? Not enough, considering China is like the birthplace of martial arts. This is one of the most exciting games on the list for me personally, and one of the only ones that have a nice detailed description on the Steam page so I don't have to rummage through dead Discord chats to get any info. The game is developed in Unreal Engine and has this gorgeous looking 3D pixel art with modern lighting that's been sort of popular lately. It's set in an open world with, quote, bustling ancient Chinese towns, scenic mountains, picturesque rivers, dangerous lairs, treacherous terrains, and more. I mean, if this is what they're talking about, I admire the confidence. This does just look like filler between the levels, but the levels themselves look very pretty, and they continue to use big words to describe everything in this game. It gets me excited, but also a bit wary. As you explore, you will discover hundreds of martial arts forms and weapons to master and wield. I mean, hundreds sounds like a lot, right? You learn to cultivate your chi by opening meridian points, which I guess act as a skill tree. The combat is grid-based and supposedly innovative in that it allows you to switch between turn-based and real-time. There is a great number of quests for you to take on and many adventures to explore. Deciding what quests to undertake will affect the eventual outcome of the game, leading to different endings and immense replayability. I don't know, sounds cool, and the city gifts are too pretty for me to overlook.
PlayStation 1, Tebra! Jugo! Zagađeni vazduh, blokovi, Playboard ilegala, malo ovo ono, racing, semi-open world, distraction, customization, help Baba with her groceries, drive home your drunk friend before he book tebra, free from police, annoy commuters, idemo!
Radio the Universe is a game that's been in development for more than a decade now. There are people who have followed it since the Kickstarter launched in December of 2012. Like, damn, okay, first of all, I love the unwavering optimism and faith, but also, considering I just found out about this game recently, that's gotta be proof that there's something there, right? For people to stick around for a decade waiting for it. I went through the publicly available Kickstarter updates, and it seems like the dev has spent a good chunk of his life by now struggling with this project, and I have empathy for that. These things never go as planned, and creative types put a lot of pressure on themselves, but it seems like this time for real, development has finally reached its final stretch. The trailer is gorgeous in its own way, especially the cinematic parts. Like, I actually don't think I've seen graphics like this before. I've been conditioned to just associate every sort of next-gen looking pixel art game with The Last Night. That game is a whole rabbit hole in its own right, but I won't get into that now. Radio the Universe reminded me of it in more than just the pretty pixel art and soul-crushing development cycle. This looks like a game that has something to say. It's very esoteric, but not for the sake of being esoteric, if you get what I'm saying. This is not going to be a game for everyone, but luckily we seem to have come full circle and are in an era of demos again, and the demo for this came out earlier this year, so definitely try it out before you buy it. It's packed with lots of challenging action, probably a very profound story, incredibly thought out aesthetics, and just grimy cyberpunk depression, honestly. Okay, so I have a weird relationship with JRPGs, and by weird relationship, I mean no relationship. I never got into any. And I'm sick of trying. I emulated the classics, I tried many newer ones. I'm jealous of guys who are super into these. They look so happy. I need something to be that much of a fan of. SacriFire is a game I came across a while back, probably a couple years ago at this point, and guess what got me interested in it? The 3D pixel art? Yes, the 3D pixel art. These devs made 2 other tactical RPGs before, so they do have some experience with this sort of genre, but these games look very different to SacriFire. I'm glad they stepped up their art game, cause goddamn, this could be a mechanically 12 out of 10 game that I would just never give a shot because of how it looks. But they seem to be going all out with SacriFire. The game looks a lot more expansive than their previous titles, and not to mention a lot prettier. It's a game inspired by 90s JRPGs, set in 2 sprawling worlds, a subterranean city and a spirit realm. I really got no room to do my usual moaning about underground areas here. Both of these look gorgeous to explore, and that's really my #1 thing most of the time. I'm always just chasing that high of good exploration in every new game I play. But where SacriFire will probably shine the brightest is the combat. They do have the most experience in this area, and they're saying it's not structured like the typical JRPG turn-based stuff. It's a blend of real-time and turn-based styles. There are multiple weapons, companions, everything you'd expect, but there is also an affinity system where every enemy has its weakness and you have to tailor your attacks to exploit these. You can string together different attacks to create these cool-ass chains and individually target body parts to deal greater damage to vulnerable areas or wound enemies for an advantage. Yeah, sounds pretty deep and fleshed out, and it's only scratching the surface. There's a lot more to read about on the Kickstarter page, and supposedly a lot more that hasn't even been revealed yet. I am really excited about this new era of indie games. I'm seeing more stuff that I'm interested in than ever before, and my dream would be that you join me here and on Twitch, where I'd get to play through these so we can discuss them together, human to human, before AI generated content inevitably takes over. So lock in your spot now, subscribe here, and follow me on Twitch. MattPat says call to action doesn't work when you overwhelm your audience with requests, so let's try that. These are my beautiful patrons who've stayed with me way longer than I deserve, so consider joining them maybe also. And also, I spent a lot of time designing my merch and website to get it right, so I'd appreciate it if you just hopped over to chromerot.com to just check it out. No obligations. What else? Oh yeah, leave a comment below because reading your comments keeps me alive, and I'll see you in part 2.